Can we get this one right here, please?
Yeah, here you go.
Thank you so much. Here you go, Ella. 1, 2, ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Thank you so much.
CommonSenseLoonie, that's my tune. Bringing truth to the red and white moon.
Personally, I am a man.
Hey there, folks. Welcome back to another episode of CommonSenseLoonie, where we cut through the noise and bring you the stories from Canada, and sometimes beyond, that deserve a good dose of straight talk and real common sense. I'm your host, Rex, coming to you from the heart of the Great White North. Today, we've got a lineup that's got me fired up about where this country's heading. We're talking endless foreign entanglements that drain our wallets while our economy sputters. Trade punches from our southern neighbors hitting our small businesses right in the gut. Quirky Quebec booze drama that's turned into a charity comedy. A head-scratcher from the Pride Parade scene, and we've got a brand new segment roasting the wildest defenses of our Prime Minister on X, and a peek south of the border at some athletic absurdity that ties right back to common sense priorities. Let's get started. The theme for today, our government needs to focus on Canada for a change. Our first story is one that really pisses me off. From CTV News, Prime Minister Carney visits Ukraine, Canada not excluding boots on the ground, impossible security guarantee, officials say. Yeah, you heard that right. Our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, just wrapped up his first official visit to Ukraine, heading to Kiev on August 24th, right in time for their Independence Day celebrations. He met up with President Zelensky there, and during the trip, an official came out and said Canada is not excluding boots on the ground as part of some long-term security guarantee for Ukraine.
Canada's Prime Minister hasn't ruled out sending troops to Ukraine to guarantee the country's future security under any peace deal to end Russia's war. Mark Carney joined the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at a ceremony in Kyiv to mark Ukraine's Independence Day.
We are working through with our allies in Coalition of the Willing and with Ukraine the modalities of those security guarantees on land, in the air, and the sea, and I would not exclude the presence of troops.
That's basically leaving the door open to sending Canadian troops over there someday. Zelensky thanked us for the support, but man, this feels like it's escalating way too far. Look, we've already poured a ton of cash into this. Since Russia's invasion back in 2022, Canada has committed over $19.7 billion in total aid to the Ukraine. That breaks down to more than $12.4 billion in direct financial help, about $4.5 billion in military gear like weapons and training, and hundreds of millions in humanitarian stuff to deal with the fallout. That's not chump change. It's billions from our taxes going overseas, while things at home are falling apart. And speaking of home, we've just come out of what folks are calling the lost Liberal decade under Trudeau and previous government. From 2014 to 2024, Canada's GDP per capita, that's the money the economy makes per person, grew by a pathetic 0.5%. Compare that to the US, where it shot up by 20.7% over the same time. Annual per person GDP growth under Trudeau, just 0.3% on average. We're talking serious economic stagnation, low productivity, jobs not keeping up, and families feeling the squeeze with higher costs for everything from groceries to housing. It's been a rough ride, and now we've got Trump's tariffs piling on. With all that staring us in the face, we really need to hunker down and focus on fixing our own backyard, boosting our growth, creating our jobs here, and helping everyday Canadians get ahead. Not shipping more money or, God forbid, our people overseas. Don't get me wrong. I feel for the folks in Ukraine. What's happening there is awful, and nobody wants to see innocent people suffer. But this isn't our war. It's not even close to us geographically. Ukraine's halfway around the world, and we've got our own battles right here, with a stagnant economy, rising debt, and these trade hits from the US. After dumping nearly $20 billion in this, now we're talking about committing Canadian lives? Sending boots on the ground? That crosses a line. Our troops deserve better than being pulled into something that's not a direct threat to us. Carney needs to get his priorities straight and fix his own country first. We've got families struggling to pay bills, a productivity gap with the US that's costing us about $20,000 per person a year, and tariffs that could tank our growth even more. Let's put Canada and Canadians first for a change. Invest in our economy, our people, and our future. Enough with the endless foreign commitments while our house is in shambles. All right, in our next segment, let's talk about something that's flying under the radar but could hit Canadian pockets hard.
The de minimis exemption is something many Canadians have never even heard of. But one business owner of a store in Arnprior tells me its removal is already having serious impacts on his business.
old telephones and typewriters, all the types of things that we sell into the U.S.
Dave Pelkey says sales to U.S. customers on his Etsy website account for 60% of his antique sales. The owner of the Vintage Crate in Arnprior says the removal of duty exemptions for small businesses like his by the U.S. government is hard to take.
I think that American end users are going to feel it, and I think small businesses in Canada are going to feel it.
Earlier this month, the U.S. government announced the end of the de minimis threshold, which is an exemption for duties on goods shipped to the U.S. valued under $800. Etsy has announced it won't print Canada Post shipping labels for orders to the U.S. because the carrier can't process tariffs. Sellers will need to ship through other companies and will need to either raise prices or absorb the cost of the tariffs.
The U.S. just suspended their de minimis exemption for low-value imports, and it kicks off in just a few days on August 29th. That means no more duty-free entries for shipments under $800 from Canada to the States. Small businesses that ship directly to American customers, they're screwed now. Going to have to pay duties, taxes, and hire brokers for every little package, jacking up costs 20 to 50% more. We're talking about handmade soaps from Manitoba shops like Apothecary, traditional Cowichan sweaters from BC artisans, or Etsy jewelry makers in Ottawa. These folks rely on the U.S. market for a huge chunk of their sales, and without exemption, brokerage fees alone could be $50 to $200 per shipment. Experts from the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses say about 300,000 Canadian small and medium enterprises, that's 1/3 of all our small businesses, are going to feel the pain, with tens of thousands potentially just suspending trade with the U.S. altogether to avoid the hassle and the losses. Obviously, this is straight-up protectionism from the Trump administration aimed at shielding American industries from what they call unfair trade. But it's slamming the door on everyday Canadian entrepreneurs who play by the rules. And get this, it's part of a bigger push with tariffs and executive orders to fix trade deficits. But why isn't this blowing up on mainstream media? I mean, CBC, CTV, the big networks, crickets. Are they too busy with political drama or climate stuff to cover how this could cost jobs and shrink our economy by up to 0.5% in key sectors?
We manufacture a product, the Gutter Saver Pro. It's made here in Canada. We support Canada. We support Canadian jobs. Our product is made here. But most of our business right now is in the U.S. Up until now, we've been able to ship single units, whether I'm talking about sending one to a homeowner or sending a box of 24 to a professional retail store such as ABC Supply or SRS Distribution. I could ship without having to pay customs and duty. That's all over.
And during these dismal trade negotiations with the U.S., why hasn't this been front and center? Our leaders in Ottawa are fumbling around with CUSMA talks, but they're not fighting hard enough for exemptions or relief for small businesses. It's like they're asleep at the wheel while American policies steamroll us. We need tougher bargaining and some real support for exporters, because right now, it's the little guy paying the price for weak leadership. Now, you see how this connects back to our first segment. While billions are funneled to Ukraine and Carney talks troops, our own economy, already limping from that lost decade of stagnation, is taking direct hits from U.S. policies that our government isn't countering with any real spine. It's about priorities gone wrong. But hey, if tariffs are the game, let's pivot to that ongoing Quebec booze saga we teased last episode. Because nothing says standing up to America like donating expired wine. The absurdity continues, and it underscores how our leader turned trade fights into farces instead of fixes. We talked about this crazy story in our last episode, but the saga continues. So Quebec had a plan. Take $300,000 worth of American booze, rosé, boxed wine, some sad cocktails, and smash it to bits. Why? Because America! Tariffs! Drama! But wait, plot twist. They're not destroying it anymore. They're donating it to charities, to hospitality schools, because nothing says cheers to education like a warm, expired Bud Light.
From the warehouse to the classroom, $300,000 worth of American products nearing expiry won't be destroyed after all. Instead, the province says they will go to various organizations, including hospitality schools. The wine and spirits were pulled from SAC shelves earlier this year as a retaliation against U.S. tariffs. Marketing expert Harold Simpkins says the story has hurt the government's image.
It makes them look wasteful. It makes them look unimaginative.
Who wants this stuff? I mean, basically, it's alcoholic compost now. Picture it, soup kitchens serving their flat rosé, bartending students practicing with whatever this is. This story's already weird, but trust me, it could get worse. Much worse. Okay, our next story is very short and sweet. I'm so confused.
Thousands of people lined the streets of Ottawa for Capital Pride this afternoon, ready to celebrate the inclusivity of the annual parade. But about an hour after it started, the new parade route was blocked. CTV's Natalie Van Roy has more on the unexpected interruption. Natalie.
Lawson, the parade started at 1 p.m., but it was canceled only an hour and a half later, and that's because the route was blocked off in front of Parliament Hill on Wellington Street by pro-Palestinian protesters. The group Queers for Palestine Ottawa blocking Ottawa's annual Pride Parade Sunday afternoon, bringing the festivities to a halt.
We had staged a disruption of the parade to say our demands to both Capital Pride's executive director and board of directors and to the mayor. We were looking for apologies from the mayor in particular for boycotting last year and for encouraging other powerful institutions to boycott the parade.
The group halted the parade to demand the apology from not only the mayor, Mark Sutcliffe, but also other organizations that pulled out of the Capital Pride events last year when organizers issued a statement condemning Israel.
The mayor said he would not come up and talk to us, and even when communicated that the parade would then disperse if we didn't move, he still refused to come up and talk to us.
In a statement, Ottawa's mayor said in part, "It's deeply regrettable that a group of activists chose to block the parade, ultimately leading Capital Pride officials to cancel the event. My heart goes out to the many people in our city who were deprived of the opportunity to participate in this celebration of joy, resilience, and community."
So there's a group out there called Queers for Palestine, but there's no group out there called Palestinians for Queer. Anyways, enough with that one. So, like I said, I want to do a new segment for the show. I've been seeing these ridiculous posts from Carney defenders on X, and with a 200-character response limit, not to mention I don't really have that much time, I can't reply to all of them. So I want to start with a new segment we'll do once a week called X-Plicatly Stupid. Let's get started. Here's one I saw. No one was expecting Carney to keep tariffs on the U.S. That was always a temporary measure. We punched back and made our point. We need to buy time for Canadian workers while we build a new economy based on new trade partners. Carney is not retreating. He's buying us time. Ay, boy. First off, those retaliatory tariffs on American goods were not some clever temporary measure. Carney slapped them on March 2025 to hit back at U.S. tariffs on our steel and aluminum. But by August, he yanked most of them as an olive branch. This wasn't because he'd made our point. It's because U.S. pressure cranked up and Canada blinked first, without the U.S. lifting a single one of their own tariffs in return. The U.S. didn't budge on their duties. In fact, Trump celebrated it as a total win, with zero concessions like cutting tariffs on Canadian auto or lumber. What point did we make? That we can huff and puff for a few months before folding? This whole thing mirrors to the digital service tax mess. Canada rolled out the DST to target U.S. tech giants, but rescinded it on June 30th after Trump killed trade talks and threatened even higher tariffs on our imports. Again, nothing in return, just backing down to avoid a bigger fight. And now the U.S. is piling on pressure to scrap Bill C-18, our Online News Act. The State Department is slamming it for hurting press freedom and warning it will spark retaliation before the 2026 USMCA review. Studies show C-18s had mixed results for journalism. Sure, some good deals with Google, but platforms like Meta straight up block Canadian news, which has hammered outlets even more. If Canada caves here too, and I bet you we will, it's another fold with zilch to show for it. And as for buying time to build a new economy with other trade partners, that's wishful thinking at best. Canadian exports to the U.S. are still massive, and diversification is crawling along. It's not replacing lost U.S. business anytime soon. Carney's big nation-building promises from his April 2025 election win, like ditching the carbon tax and pushing the One Canadian Economy Act, haven't shielded us one bit. They're just knee-jerk reactions to U.S. dominance, not some master plan. This isn't strategy. It's surrender dressed up as savvy, and Canadian workers are paying the price. Looking back at this from the start, I've said the best way to handle tariffs is not to declare a national emergency and escalate like Carney did. It's to calmly sit down at the table and hammer out a deal like most other countries managed to do with the U.S. I never liked the digital services tax either. I knew it would just jack up prices for Canadians and maybe even limit our access to services from those tech giants. And Bill C-18, don't get me started, that's a dangerous bill. I covered it before in our censorship episode, and it's clear it risks more harm than good to free speech and journalism. So maybe, I guess, I should be saying thank you to Trump. Our politicians couldn't get rid of these bad policies, but he's forced their hands, and now they have. All right, let's check out another. Here's one from the ever-popular food professor. He may know food, but his politics kind of suck. Prime Minister Carney's press conference marked the first time in over a decade that a Canadian leader articulated coherent economic policy, a refreshing change. This post praising Carney's press conference on tariff removal as the first coherent economic policy in over a decade? Give me a break. That's pure fantasy.
So the first thing to say is, let's be clear.
Carney stood there spinning the decision to scrap our 25% retaliatory tariffs on over $29 billion in U.S. goods at some strategic olive branch to de-escalate and reopen talks. He leaned hard on vague promises of Trump committing to a reset. Yet the U.S. kept their tariffs firmly in place with no real progress on key issues like energy exports or supply chain security. This move exposed Canada's vulnerabilities even more, especially while U.S. exports to us surged, especially as U.S. exports to us surged while our own tanked to them, hitting sectors like manufacturing and agriculture without any backup plan in place. Refreshing change? Nah, I call it the same old pattern of talk without teeth. Critics are ripping it as a weak move that undermines our negotiating power long term, not some visionary blueprint. If this is coherence, we've been coasting on autopilot for years.
Wait.
Okay, folks, that's about all I can stand on that segment, so let's move along. Let's go to our final story for today. I don't normally cover much American news, but I thought this one was one we could highlight. I guess Portland, Oregon is still doing the trans athletic thing because here we go. Trans girl races in 400-meter girls track. The outcome will shock you.
Come on, Kelly!
Okay, I thought America was done with that, but I guess they're still trying to go at it. Anyways, that's it for this show. Today, we've connected the dots from Carney's Ukraine trip and those risky boots on the ground hints, draining our resources while our economy chokes on a decade of stagnation, Quebec's bizarre booze bailout, that confusing pride cancellation, the laughable X defenses in our new Explicitly Stupid segment, and even that wild Portland track story reminding us that common sense is in short supply everywhere. The overreaching theme? It's high time we demand leaders who prioritize Canada, fixing our productivity gap, shielding jobs from tariffs, ditching bad policies like DST and C-18 under pressure if needed, and steering clear of foreign quagmires that don't serve us. No more endless aid abroad or folding to bullies. Let's build a stronger, self-reliant nation for all of us. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you like this, subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below. I love the comments. Always try to get to the comments every single day. That's it for today. This is Rex. And remember, stay skeptical, stay strong, and above all else, stay loony.
I'm here to cut through the haze, no disguise. Gonna open your eyes to politicians' lies. Canada's great, but led by wackos, it's true. Time for no nonsense, me and you. I'm the CommonSenseLoonie, hear my call. Ditch bingo night games, we'll fix it all. CommonSenseLoonie, that's my tune. Bringing truth to the red and white moon.
Wait.